welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mary, and today's video is going to be my wrap-up of July 2022. I'm also going to be talking about some channel updates because I have taken an accidental month-long hiatus basically. So I'm going to start with that, and then if you don't care, I will have timestamps down below where you can jump to the part that you care about or want to hear about. So without further ado, let's just jump into some channel updates. So as you can see, I'm in a new location. You may not actually be able to tell, but I am in a new location. We moved finally. So I am moved. I start work in a little over a week actually. And I'm going to try to film a bunch of content, pre-film a bunch of content so that I can get some videos out to you guys so that I'm ahead on my video schedule rather than falling so far behind that I just don't post in almost a month. So I did take the bar exam. That is over and done with for now. We'll see if I pass it. If I fail, I have to take it again in February. If I passed it, which I'm hoping that I did, then I'm good to go. But that's pretty much it for the channel update. I am going to try to go back to posting 2 videos a week. Again, I am working full-time, so I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm hopeful that that can happen. I'm planning on having a bookshelf organization video coming up relatively soon. This is our guest bedroom upstairs, and I'm hoping that this can be my filming space. Obviously, we've yet to set up the bed, but we have the desk right behind you, and there's a good amount of space in here. There are some built-in shelves in this corner. I'm also going to bring some of my bookshelves up here as well. So I'm hoping that I can have a nice pretty little setup somewhere, but we got to figure out where we're gonna put the bed. That's operation number 1, I guess. But I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to subscribe, that would be awesome. I have 499 subscribers at the time of filming this, which is crazy. I cannot believe that people have continued to subscribe during my month-long absence, but thank you so much. If that was you, welcome. You might unsubscribe immediately once I post because you're like, no, this is not for me. But I'm going to show you how I do this makeup look, kind of. I'm just going to do my makeup while I talk about the books that I've read because I do have to go somewhere today. So that's the premise of this video, but if you enjoy it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you would like to subscribe, it means a lot to me. You can turn on the bell notifications if you want to be notified every time I post. And without further ado, let's just jump to Past Mary, and she will tell you about everything that we read in July and also at the beginning of August. Okay, so we're going to start out this portion of the video the same way that I always do, where I'm just going to go through these books in the order in which I enjoyed them. Nothing too spectacular. I am going to be talking about a couple of books that I read in August already, because I didn't read that much in July. I think I only read 6 things. So in August, I've already read a few things. Most of them are things that I finished up that I carried over from July, which is why I'm doing this, and then one is just a short story thing that I will talk about when I talk about it. So, first thing is actually an August read, and that is The Friend Scheme by Cale Dietrich. Also, if you can hear Murphy sniffing around and walking around, it's because we have hardwoods and he's sniffing and walking around. So it's going to be a little louder than it would have been on the carpet at the old house. But The Friend Scheme is basically a Romeo and Juliet retelling about crime families in Florida, but it's queer, so they're both boys, so teenage boys. And the scheme part of it is, essentially, one of the crime families is trying to invade the other crime family by pretending to befriend them. And the main characters are teenage sons of 2 of the leaders of 2 of the biggest crime families. Or that is the premise. We only get one perspective. We get the perspective of Matt Miller, and the other boy is supposedly Jason Donovan. You don't know that the whole time, but you also kind of do because that's the premise of the book. So there is a reveal scene that I thought was really stupid because our main character didn't know. But as the reader, you knew, so I don't know. I gave this book 2 stars for a lot of reasons. None of them having to do with the character's age or anything, but this book just did a lot of the things that I find really annoying, particularly in YA. I feel like YA does it more, but it can happen in adult books too. One of them is needlessly name-dropping things all the time. So many pop culture references. I don't mind. There was a couple of things about albums that this one kid liked and songs that he liked, and bands and movies. And I didn't mind that because it was really important to their character. And the other kid really liked video games, so they would talk about video games and specific games. And I didn't mind that. But I do not love the name-dropping of he'd be listening to a podcast, and rather than just saying listening to an episode of my favorite podcast or listening to an episode of a true crime podcast even, he was listening to the newest episode of My Favorite Murder, which it just dates it, you know? I feel like maybe podcasts won't be a thing forever, probably not, but they've been a thing for a long time now, and My Favorite Murder has been around for a long time, but it will eventually cease to be. But I assume that someone else will take up the mantle and do true crime. There's already a couple other true crime podcasts out there. That's just the biggest one. So, I don't know, stuff like that I wasn't really into. It also references Harry Potter a lot, which a lot of YA does, because I feel like it's a book that a lot of kids have read, which is why. And Harry Potter World was talked about a few times, which I guess kind of made sense because they were in Florida, but I just don't like all the Harry Potter talk in my books personally. I'm just not into it. I feel like I was never really into it when it happened, even when, like, J.K. Rowling was on everyone's shit list. Like, even when I was still in, like, my prime Harry Potter days, I feel like it just wasn't something that I cared about. But it is so weird to me that so many YA books, like, this book didn't come out that long ago. It came out in 2020, okay? 2020. It seems so weird to me that books are still doing this. I don't know. Is that just me? Am I the only one who gets annoyed by that? So I gave this book 2 stars. That and the fact that it wasn't very well written to me, and I didn't like the writing, I guess I should say. It's very choppy writing, and it's super repetitive. Like, the main character is gay. He's not out to his family, and he doesn't really have any friends, but he's, like, out to himself. And coming out isn't even a big part of the book. That's why I think it annoyed me, but, like, the whole time he's talking to this guy, he's like, he's my new friend, but we're both gay. And, I mean, fine, but I didn't see why he had to bring it up so much. It was just weird to me. And it also their conversations didn't read like genuine conversations that you would have with someone that you are friends with. And also, the way he did things, I get it because he's a teenager, and, like, I would have done some stupid things for a boy that I liked when I was a teenager, but, like, at the same time, I was like, you know, right, that he's not who he's telling you he is? You know that. Okay, cool. So that was a friend scheme. I don't recommend it. It has a 3.08 on Goodreads, so I guess a lot of other people didn't love it either. The next book that I'm going to talk about, I feel bad for having it this low, but I almost gave it a 2.5, which is why it's this low. I gave it 3 stars, but it's One to Watch by Kate Stayman-London. And the reason I feel bad about this one being this low is that I really did like parts of it. I also really didn't like parts of it. And the other books that are above it that got 3 stars, I feel indifferent about for the most part. So that's one of the reasons I feel bad about rating this so lowly? Yeah. Or ranking this so lowly, I guess. But this one is a plus-size blogger gets invited to be the first plus-sized heroine, I guess, of a dating show called... The show is not called One to Watch. Her blog is called One to Watch. I can't remember what the show's called. It doesn't matter. The Main Squeeze. The Big Squeeze. The Main Squeeze, I think. Regardless. So it's like The Bachelorette, right? She's got a bunch of suitors, and the big thing in the show is that she's fat. And here's the thing. I know that if reality TV did this, they would do it in such a way that would be cruel to the main person. But this show just did some things. I guess I'm being really wishy-washy. Some things that I really liked about this book was that I really liked the way it looked at, like, reality TV culture, and had the producer be like, okay, we're going to do these things today. I'm not telling you what they are, but just so you know that this is, like, scripted. And there was, like, a guy who walked out of the show, and they scripted that, and, like, just all sorts of stuff that I think is really interesting, because I'm sure actual reality TV is pretty scripted. And I just thought it was fun that they played with that. I don't know if Kate Stayman-London has been on reality shows, or if she's just, like, speculating, but I did think that was very interesting. I also, I like Beatrice. That's the main character's name. I thought she was, like, a decent main character. I didn't like her love interests. I was unclear on who I was supposed to root for until, like, the very, very end. And I just didn't feel a real connection between her and any of them. Also, it felt a little, like, diverse for the purpose of being diverse without, like, delving into what that would actually, like, mean. And honestly, on a reality show, maybe the diverse cast members, diverse being, like, people of different races, maybe they're not there to talk about the fact that they're, you know, Black or Jewish or Asian or whatever the case may be, right? Like, maybe they would just not talk about it, but it just seems like something would have to be different for that to be actual representation. Am I making any sense? I don't know if I'm making any sense. It was just very okay. It was a very okay read. I didn't get, like, the warm and fuzzies that I want to get from, like, a romance. I didn't feel, like, I don't know, connected to it. I didn't feel like I was rooting for anyone. I was rooting for B, because I was like, everybody sucks, dude, get out, go home. But, you know, The next thing I'm going to talk about is an alternate ending to a book I already read. So I'm not going to tell you much about it, but it's Fed by Mira Grant, which is Shauna McGuire's pen name when she writes this zombie series that she's writing for young adults. Feed is the one that I've already read. That's the first book. And then Fed is an alternate ending to that book. And so it was interesting for that purpose. It doesn't really serve another purpose to me. But, you know, I didn't dislike it. I really liked getting back with those characters. I really enjoy those characters. It follows this world where there's a disease, and you get the disease, you basically become a zombie. And so we're following a group of bloggers who are the new like newscast people in this world. And it's in the near future. It's in like 2040 or 2040 something, I think. So it's not like super far out, but it's also not like 2012, you know? Yeah, it's fun. The main characters are adopted siblings, Sean and Georgia Mason, and they run this like newscast program, and they've got this whole crew, and it's just it's a really interesting, fun time, I think. So, okay, next I have Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. People love these guys. I did not really care about this book at all. So essentially it's like one of Hell's Angels and one of Heaven's Angels are working together to try to like cause Armageddon so that the big fight for the end of the world can happen. And the way they're doing that is that they've got a baby that is like the devil's child, thus the omen. And it's basically like nature versus nurture, and it's supposed to be really funny. I think I could have enjoyed this had I like taken my time and read it, but I listened to it as an audiobook when I was just living my life, and it didn't really grip me the way that I wanted it to, if that makes sense. So, I don't know. 3 stars. I thought it was fine. I would definitely give Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett another chance because people love them, but if I don't like anything else that they read, like the next thing that I read by them, I might just decide that they're not an author for me, because I think Good Omens is like the book that I hear people talk about the most from them. But if you have a favorite, let me know down below, and I might add it to my list to try next to see if I can make this author be an author that I like, if that makes sense. Next up, we have The Shadow of Kyoshi, which is by FCE, and it's the sequel to Rise of Kyoshi, which I read last summer for the May the 4th, the Star Wars readathon in May, I think. So I read this one in July, and I liked it. It was good. It was a good like conclusion to the story. I had forgotten almost everything about it. To be honest with you, I didn't remember that much of like what had happened in the last book, but as I was reading it, things were like coming back to mind. But this just follows one of the avatars before Aang from the TV show Avatar The Last Airbender was Avatar, and it was Kyoshi, who's the Earth Kingdom Avatar, and she has this like sapphic love story with her trainer from the Fire Nation, Rangi, which is my favorite part of the books. Personally, I really like their relationship. I really like Rangi as a character. She's probably my favorite character in the series. I think she's just very cool and very badass and very like family oriented in a way that like you kind of, I mean, I guess you can read that into the Fire Nation as a whole in the later like seasons of the show, but it wasn't something that I like thought of when I thought of Fire Nation. So I really liked the relationship that she has with her mom. So I thought that was really cool. I liked that book fine. 3 stars again. The next book is my last 3-star. This is more like a 3.5 star, and it's Either Or by Elif Batuman. And this is a new release that I read. I fully intended on blogging my experience of reading this, and I just did not do it. So I apologize for that. If you were looking forward to that vlog, it's not coming. I did not film it. But this book, and from what I understand, Elif Batuman, her other book, The Idiot, as well, they're both named after other books. So Either Or is a philosophy book, which is told in 2 halves. And one half is a person who lives their life aesthetically, and the other half is a person who lives their life morally or ethically. I can't remember which word they use. I think morally. But we follow this teenage girl who is first-generation American. She goes to Harvard. Her parents are from Turkey. And we're following her life for like a year. And we flash back a little bit to her freshman year of college when she meets this guy, Ivan, who she has sort of like developed really strong, severe feelings for. And then we follow her through the second year. When we first meet her, she's just coming back from Bulgaria, where Ivan is from. And she is confused because Ivan invited her to stay with his family in their family home in Bulgaria. And then like, she thought that meant that he liked her and they were gonna have sex and, like, be a couple, and none of that happened. So she's talking to her friends about that, and then we just sort of follow her sophomore year, and then her next summer. And it's just a year of her life. And she's reading this book, Either Or, about whether she should live ethically or morally, and just talking about how she feels about it and comparing her life to things that happen in the book. So I do think that if you've read Either Or, it might be like a more impactful story for you. But there's one line that I keep thinking about from this book, and it says, like, so-and-so was a good writer on a sentence level. That's how I felt about this book. I felt like every sentence was so well crafted and just, like, beautifully written, but the story as a whole just didn't do it for me. I do think it was supposed to be kind of, like, not bland, but just kind of meandering and, like, slice of life. And I don't always hate that, and I didn't hate it here. It just didn't do anything for me. It wasn't as gripping as I wanted it to be. And it also, I didn't feel as connected to it as I would have liked to. And I think if I felt much more connected to it, I would have liked that version a lot more. I just didn't feel as gripped as I wanted to feel, I guess is where I'm going with that. So, not a bummer, because I did enjoy it, and I would recommend it to someone who likes, like, literary fiction like that. I just don't know that I do. So, next thing I read was Days of Awe, which again was a holdover from July. No, Days of Awe was a holdover from June that I finished in July. That's what it was. And that is a short story collection by A.M. Holmes. Is that who wrote that? Yeah, A.M. Holmes. And it's just a collection of stories. They're very slice of life. I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. And my favorite thing about it, actually, was that, my eyeliner. My favorite thing about it was actually that two of the stories contain the same family, but it's clearly, like, 20 years apart. So you get to watch them, like, it's really depressing, actually, but I thought it was interesting that she started the book and about, like, at the end of the first third had this story about this family, and then I think it was the last story in the book was about the same family. Which at first I was like, these characters sound so familiar, and, like, the setting seems really familiar. I didn't, like, catch on that that's what had happened, because it took me so long to read through this short story collection. It took me, like, a month, but I thought that was really interesting. I fucked up my eyeliner, so I'm gonna have to fix it later. God, that's annoying. Okay, I'll just let it dry, and then I'll fix it. It'll be fine. This happens to me about every third time I do eyeliner, so it's fine. And I'm not wearing my glasses, so I can't tell how badly it's messed up, so you're probably seeing it on a big screen like, dang. But, okay. Next, I read Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice, which I also gave 4 stars. Here's why. It made me really uncomfortable to read at times. Everyone, I think, knows what this is. It's that, like, really famous vampire story from New Orleans where it's, like, the vampire Lestat, who I think is played by Brad Pitt in the movie, converts another guy to be a vampire during, like, the 1700s, and they just live hundreds of years, and then he meets, I don't know that the story even said how he met this man who was going to tell his story, but he meets, like, a newspaper reporter who decides to, like, write his story for him. So that's where we're at. Here's the thing. I didn't really like that much of this book. I thought it was interesting. I've heard the story before. I've never read it, but I have seen the movie a handful of times, so I felt, like, fairly familiar with the whole plot, and I didn't feel like anything was that, like, extraordinary about it. One thing that I will say that really gets me about this book, and the reason I got 4 stars rather than 3, they convert a child to be a vampire. And the way that this child is portrayed and described, and, like, the understanding that she, yes, physically is locked in the body of, like, a 4-year-old, but mentally isn't a grown woman, bonkers. So it really, like, did make my skin crawl thinking about that. And there were a couple of other horror elements that really worked for me. So, yeah, I liked it. I would read the next one in the series. I don't know how far in the series I would go, but I would read book 2. So that's where I'm at with that one right now. Then the last book that I read, or not the last book that I read, I did finish this one in August as well, but this is another holdover from July, and that is The Bands of Mourning by Brandon Sanderson. If you are new here, I am reading through Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere in publication date order. The Bands of Mourning is Brandon Sanderson's 6th book in the Mistborn series. So he has Mistborn Era 1, which is a trilogy, and the Mistborn Era 2, which this is the 3rd book in that series. But it's not a trilogy. It will continue on. This kind of left with a good spot. And I've always said that I don't really like this series as much as I like Mistborn Era 1, which is true. Don't really like it as much as I like the Stormlight Archives, which is true. This is the first one that I actually felt like I was really enjoying and getting into. I feel like the character dynamics are finally starting to like make sense and be enjoyable for me, whereas before I just found several of the characters so annoying that I couldn't get over it. And yeah, the plot is going in a direction that I think is really, really interesting. It's opening up the world a lot more, and I really liked it. I'm not going to say too much about what this is about, but it is like a steampunky inspired fantasy that is in the same world that Mistborn Era 1 was set in. So they have the same like magical abilities as they have in Era 1 of Mistborn. Take for that, let that mean what you want it to mean. So I'm going to finish getting ready really quick. Again, I did not have very many books this month. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I only read 9 books, which I guess is not too shabby, but for me, I usually read like 12. So I'm definitely nowhere near my normal read amounts, but I'm going to finish getting ready, do my hair, and then I will come back and do the outro, and I will also do the intro and the like stuff that you've already seen. So I'll see you in a second. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you would like to, you can subscribe to my channel. I am really close to 500 subscribers, like I mentioned, so it would be really awesome if you could subscribe and join us. Now, I make a lot of bookish content, clearly. I usually do TBR videos. I'm not doing a TBR for August. That should have gone in the channel updates section. I just need a break from scheduled reading, and I think August is a good time to take that break. I sort of missed my opportunity to make that video, so it is what it is, but I do play a TBR game. I will have that playlist linked somewhere so you can watch it if you are interested. It's very, very fun, but I just need to take a breather from it for right now. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. If this is your first time here, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!